We had no power, of course. I didn't anyway. Paringa.
We had
Coal
power
rates.
we had power from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And
You did, but
you
didn't.
You
I didn't have any
any.
power at all. I had to rely on the men to come home and start up the generator. Sometimes it was at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I certainly hadn't coal range, but it wasn't until I'd been a wee while and realised how lonely it was, really, because, I mean, I was in a camp with... Les was the only married one. If I was worried about anything or anything like that, my lifesaver was Ma Rochford in Jacobs River. I mean, as soon as she knew that any of the children weren't well, down they come. But she didn't come alone. She brought a whole crowd, and that was it. Because I couldn't go up there, she'd invite me up there for a meal, and if the children weren't well, down she'd come and bring everybody with her. So.
But they all treated everybody like a family, didn't they? They were great, really.
Before you realised that you had a meal on the table, because they'd bring it with them. That was just it. They didn't come without bringing something with them. And before
everybody was there to help in any way, weren't they?
Yes.
Regardless, you know, as to what it was. They'd do their utmost to help you out. No, it was a real eye-opener to come from a town, to come to Haast and to find the people that were there. I found it like so anyway, and it was really good.
They're all family, that's all there is to it.
It rained and rained and rained. If you got sick of the rain, you went for a walk on the beach. You got sopping wet, and you came home, you had a bath, and you felt a different woman. And we didn't have washing machines for ages, did we? The old tub. And when it dried...
You learnt to boil up.
You learnt to boil in the copper, and when it dried, one of the old West Coast clotheslines, I think, was the best you can get. You put it away up, and it didn't take long. You got used to the same with the cooking. You got used to the cooking and the cold stove, didn't you?
Yeah.
Really. Haast would go through to Paringa to play football. And once again, I was the only lady on the plane to go and watch the football players. But then we'd go down to Paringa and we'd have a big hanging after the game. And a big social in the hall. And, it was great.
Well, the only problem I had really was with Les coming over for his tea. You know, I mean, he was the only one and all the others were single. He'd come home from work and he'd go down to one of the batches and have a few beers after work. Well, I mean, he mightn't finish till 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I was still at home trying to keep his tea hot. Luckily, I had a coal range.
It's one that there wasn't any more divorces, really. Mind you, the men worked hard. They did work long hours.
Yeah, they worked long hours.
Really
they went away early in the morning.
They had to, and they mostly took their lunches, didn't they?
Yeah. And
you didn't see them till 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that was just continual work. They really, but when they played, they played. You can't blame them.
No.
Not really, I don't think so anyway.
No.
Oh no, it's a good life. You go to dance at Haast about 10 o'clock and you'd be lucky if you're home at 5 in the morning, but it was good.
It was the same
great.
thing on our side, you know, like with Paringa. When there was any dance on or anything, it was all held at the Bruce Bay Hall and you took your children. They slept in the hall while everybody else danced.
We went to Paringa to build 5 bridges, subcontract to Ferguson's Earth Moving Company, and we lived at their camp. We employed about 6 men, and the wife went down to cook for them. We had 2 young children, and we were there for about 18 months doing those bridges, and then we got the Meraki River contract, and we shifted down to Lake Meraki and looked around, found a nice spot, and built the camp there. And we proceeded to build the Meraki Bridge. We still only had about 6 men there. And then the government decided to close the gap in a hurry, and they let the contract for the last 3.5 miles to Roadways New Zealand Limited from Oamaru. They sublet the concrete works for the big arch culverts and the box culverts to us, and offhand I think there's about 3,000 cubic yards of concrete in that contract alone. And we were only given 18 months to do the job. The minister set the opening date when he let the contract, and that the opening date for November the 6th, 1965. Then we were lucky enough to win the contract in our own right for the Whakapauai Bridge. But anyway, we had another problem when we started. To get this job done in a hurry, we had to have more men, we had to expand the camp, and I could see that we had to have married couples. You can't keep a job going without married people and their wives to settle them down. And so we had 6 married couples and 23 men all told, 6 married couples and 17 single men. So we built quarters for them and we got cracking, and then we come up the problem, if you've got married couples, you've got children. So we've built a little school at Whakapauai, and the education, I went to Christchurch and seen the education board, and they decided that they would pay a teacher for us and give us all the interior stuff for the school and everything else that goes with the school, which we were ever grateful for that. The teacher was Liz Condon. Louis, her husband, worked for Roadways, driving trucks. Well, the big problem with the time limit was that the minister took no cognizance of the weather. And, you know, at times, to keep up the schedule, we had to work 7 days a week, and well into the night sometimes. And we used to try and get Sunday off, but usually you had to do your repairs and maintenance on a Sunday to keep everything going. We had a lot of good times there. You know, for a crowd of men, Roadways must have had about 40 odd. We had 23 and their wives, and came a time when we had the big crowd, and we thought, well, I needed something to stop the workmen from going to Fox Glacier, which was nearly 60 mile away. And you get fellas that have been on the dry all the week and they go up to Fox, well, they're hard to get back. A pocket full of money, single blokes. So I went to the local constabulary here in Okateka, and I asked them, well, you know, what it'd be like if we could have a keg of beer down there, so we could have a drink after work from, say, 5 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Well, we can't give you, you know, the right to do that. It's against the law. But as long as, you know, we'll close a blind eye to it as long as you behave yourself. And you run an honesty box system. Well, we ran an honesty box system for a while, but it didn't work out. I mean, everybody that had a beer was supposed to put some money in the box. But every time I had to buy another keg of beer, there wasn't enough money left. So I come back up and seen the sergeant here, and I said, look, we've got to get away from different to this. So he said, well, all right. He said, you can form a club and charge for it, but, you know, you're not to make any profits or anything. And that worked well, and the police used to come down every month and have a yarn to me, and of course, them days there was a lot of hard cases down there, and I used to act as banker for the Justice Department, because a lot of them were paying maintenance and a lot of them have been in jail, and it was easier for me to get a grant off their pay to satisfy them with the Justice Department, and then them chasing them all around New Zealand, because probably a third of the workers were just one step ahead of the Justice Department all around New Zealand. And that was the way that we repaid from them shutting a blind eye to our Red Dog Saloon. But, unfortunately for me, a new sergeant was appointed in Okateka, which I didn't know about. and he put a young policeman in there as a spy. And he came down on a Friday night and pulled in, and he said to me, "Could I have a bed for the night?" And I said, "Yes, we can give you a bed for the night." I think 5 shillings we were charging them days for a bed. We supplied the bed and that. He supplied his sleeping bags, and he had the full use of the cookhouse. Well, he came over to my house and he said, "You know, I've heard you can get a beer around here." And I said, "Oh, well, only at certain times. We only open just to have a couple of beers." And I said, "We open on a Saturday night, but when we've had enough, when the ladies have had enough, they tell us and we shut it." Well, he said, "I like a bottle of beer." And I said, "Well, we don't sell bottles of beer because you can't have bottled beer in the camp of workmen because they buy them and they take them to their huts and you got them drinking all the time, so you defeated your own purpose." So anyway, I said, "I might have a bottle at home." So I went and rooted around at home and I got a bottle, which I sold to him, of course, like a fool, and it appeared as Exhibit A in the Wataroa court, this one lonely bottle. So anyway, on the next night, the Saturday night, he went fishing, he reckoned, and then he was going to Haast to see a cobra of his. Little did I know was a policeman at Haast, you see. Next thing, in comes the bloody police. Well, they grabbed everything and took everything, and then the police sergeant asked me to shout for him after he'd skinned us out. Took every part, bottle, everything we had on the shelves. He asked me to shout for him. And I said, "Well, I can't shout for you. I've got nothing. You've got it all out in your wagon." He said, "I'll bring in a bottle of whiskey. Will you shout for me?" Well, I said, "I suppose we'll have to." But I said, "Get a bottle of gin for the women," because I said, "Otherwise they'll have nothing to drink."
You didn't realise that it was a far away, lonely sort of a place until, well, it wasn't really. You didn't have time to be lonely. I don't think anybody was lonely. We used to make our own fun. But when the road was going down before the war, when it went from Fox to Paringa, there's a Bruce Bay Hall, and we used to have dances every Saturday night and a ball every once a month. And there was about 3 or 4 orchestras down there. There's one in Bruce Bay at the mill, and among the people that on the works, Ministry of Works and so on, they had at least 2 other orchestras, which were very good. And, they had a golf course, they played badminton, tennis, but the river took all that away, except for the hall. It was rather strange too how we used to, I'd send to Wellington to one of my sisters, and next time I'd send to one of them in Greymouth and somewhere else, and down had come 2 or 3 evening folks. Because we, down there, well, there was Mrs. McGeady and Mrs. Morton and another Mrs. Condon and myself. And, well, one of those ladies had lent me a dress one time, and I'd lend them, this sort of thing. And we didn't worry about it, you know. We had a great time. Of course, there was all these extra people there, and extra men. You always, you were always engaged for every dance. But, it was great days, really. And of course, when the road was finished, it just seemed like something out of this world to us, with the tar seal and the yellow lines and so on. It was marvellous. Because the rest of the road, I don't know whether it was tar seal then, it probably wasn't. But it was still a beautiful road.
My Haast experience started in 1956. I went into Haast with a private contractor from the East Coast, Contract Elevation. We worked our way down through the Haast Valley till the Haast to cargo link was completed. And when they departed from there, I decided I liked the country so much I'd stay. So I switched to the works, and we worked from Haast to Paringa. And during that time, I got myself engaged and thought we would get married. And I thought it would be very lonely for my wife in Paringa, virtually on her own. So we decided we'd get a dog. So I made a few inquiries, and I had a friend in Cromwell who had a dog about 18 months old, and said, "Well, I like this one," and we hit it off straight away, and that was Knight. The dog was supposed to have been Lorna's company, but having lived in a survey camp with a lot of bachelors before Lorna arrived, and decided that was the life for it. So he used to come deer stalking with us, or working when we were surveying. It went deer stalking, it did its thing. Later on, it sort of, the road was getting designed as it went, and the design engineer in Christchurch, Bill Melbourne, he drew the plan up, and the plan itself looked like a dog's head. Initially he called it Knight's Point, Pooch Point, I think, yeah. And eventually he thought, oh, well, he's only a character in South Western, so it became Knight's Point. So it was Bill Melbourne from Christchurch that actually placed the name on that point. But Knight was a character in his own right, and that although he deer stalked all day, we caught a wee baby one, and we called it Bambi, and it became its personal responsibility, and it was quite capable of taking it on a lead and leading it around and bringing it home, and it would let no other dog near it. So that's the story of Knight. He was there for all those years we were working through there, and I was very proud to have my dog's name on there.
He left school and was home working on the farm when the road was built. I think, if I remember right, I was about to get married when the road was opened, and I actually came up through on my honeymoon through that road 4 months later. And yeah, I suddenly realised just how important that link was going to be to Westland. The completion of the road in 1965 was then giving access into South Westland for tourism. We had the gems in South Westland and the glaciers and of course the virgin bush down there, and we never really had that through route to give people the opportunity to go through Westland and out through Otago down to Queenstown. And the road, of course, just gave that opportunity to start the flow of tourists down through Westland, and since then it's just been a slow progression of numbers, and especially in the last 5 years there's been a dramatic increase. We've got the German and European tourists that want to visit Westland because it's a special part of the world, really, not only New Zealand but of the world. It's unique, and it is virgin country, and they just love that. Yeah.
For the official opening, a site was chosen at a point now known as Knight's Point. The weather was bad and time was short because the opening date had been fixed. However, the area which now forms a very valuable lookout point was levelled and metalled and actually sealed in time for the opening on the 6th of November 1965. The stay started out with a mild drizzle, but as time went on it became heavier and heavier. And the District Commissioner of Works, Mr. Bruce Dallas, opened proceedings, and he was followed by Mr. Mark Wallace, the chairman of the Westland County Council, who were most interested in this connection between Westland and Otago. Mr. Blanchfield, the Member of Parliament for West Coast, followed and gave his contribution. The Minister of Works, Mr. Percy Allen, followed and described some of the difficulties of the job. The Prime Minister, Mr. Holyoake, followed and declared the road open.
I'd just like, on behalf of the Reunion Committee, just to welcome everyone here. You know, you people are history makers, and so long as you look upon yourself as that, I think you can feel a real sense of accomplishment that no doubt you do feel anyway. 30 years, it seems, when you read the booklet that's so brilliantly put together, the 30 years seems like 100 years, doesn't it? You know, you look at the pioneering spirit that went on in that booklet. It seems like stuff that was almost a century ago, and to realise it was only 30 years ago is quite some feat.
After 30 years, you deserve that special mention for the great achievement, because those conditions down there were very, very tough, and